All right, welcome to The Explainer. You know that feeling when you're in a museum just staring at some ancient artifact behind glass and you think, how in the world did that get here? I mean, from being buried for thousands of years to sitting in this perfectly lit case? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. We're going to follow that whole journey, from the dirt to the display.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll get into this super high-tech science of the dig. Then we'll take a look inside a truly world-class museum, the Grand Egyptian Museum, to see where this stuff actually goes. After that, we'll get into the big ideas, like what actually turns an old object into a museum piece. And finally, we'll wrap up by looking at what the whole point of a modern museum even is.
Okay, first things first, we're starting right where the action is, out in the field. And listen, if you're picturing someone who looks like Indiana Jones just randomly digging with a shovel, you gotta scrap that image. Modern archaeology, it's all about precision. It's a super meticulous scientific process. But how do you even know where to start digging? That's the million-dollar question, right? And the answer is pretty surprising. The most important first step has nothing to do with digging at all. It's all about using some incredible tech to see what's hiding underground before you ever move a single speck of dirt. I mean, the toolkit archaeologists have these days is seriously like something out of a sci-fi movie. They've got ground-penetrating radar, or GPR for short, and something called magnetometry. Basically, these tools let them create these crazy detailed maps of what's underground. We're not talking theory here. This is how they can literally spot the ghostly outline of a buried Roman villa from the surface. You combine that with satellite images and walking the ground, and boom, you can pinpoint exactly where you need to focus, which saves a ton of time and, more importantly, protects the site. All right, so once they do start digging, the name of the game is control. Absolute control. And here's why. Excavation, believe it or not, is destructive. You only get one shot to dig a site. That's it. So every single step is planned out to get the most information possible. They lay out the super precise grid, they remove the soil layer by layer by layer, and everything, I mean everything, gets photographed, mapped, and recorded. As for the tools, forget big shovels. Think more like trowels, tiny brushes, and yeah, even dental picks for the really delicate stuff. And this is where all that planning slams into reality. The challenges can be immense. Just imagine you're digging in Egypt's Nile Delta. The water table is so high, you need these massive pumps going 24/7 just so your dig site doesn't flood. Or get this, try telling the difference between an ancient wall made of mud brick and the dirt it's been slowly turning back into for thousands of years. It's almost the same stuff. That takes a seriously skilled eye, someone who can spot the tiniest shifts in color and texture. You know, it gets even more detailed. Even the dirt itself is like a treasure chest of information. There's this cool technique called flotation, where they can find tiny, tiny organic things in the soil samples, stuff that's impossible to see otherwise. We're talking ancient seeds, little bits of charcoal. And from that, we can figure out what people were eating, what plants were growing, basically what life was like thousands of years ago. It's amazing. Okay, so after all that incredibly careful work, the digging, the recording, the preserving, what's next for the artifact? Well, let's follow it on the next leg of its journey to its brand new home, the absolutely spectacular Grand Egyptian Museum. The size of this place, it's just mind-boggling. The Grand Egyptian Museum, the GEM for short, isn't just a museum, it's the museum. It holds the world's biggest, most important collection of ancient Egyptian history. Over 100,000 artifacts. And to give you an idea of what that means, the entire collection from Tutankhamun's tomb is here. All of it, together in one place, for the first time, ever. And here's something really cool about it. The building itself is telling part of the story. The GEM isn't just a box to hold stuff. No way. The way it's designed, how big it is, even the direction it faces, it's all meant to have this visual conversation with the Giza pyramids right there on the horizon. It's like a bridge connecting the ancient past directly to us, right now. Which brings up a really fascinating question, right? How does an object that was once just normal, a pot for carrying water, a farming tool, a necklace somebody wore, how does that become a priceless treasure that represents our shared history? Well, there's a whole field of study for that, and it's called museology. You can basically think of it as the why behind the museum. It's not about the practical stuff, like how to dust the displays. It's the big picture theory of why we even have museums, how they should be set up, and what their job is in our society. And that philosophy leads to this really key process called musealization. This is the moment, the act, of taking an object out of its normal life and giving it a whole new identity. So a Roman coin, it's not money anymore. Its old job is gone. Its new job is to be a symbol, a piece of history that holds meaning for all of us.
Yeah, there's this great term for it from the philosopher Christoph Pomien. He called these objects semiophores. I love that. It literally means carrier of meaning. So once it's in the museum, that ancient pot isn't for holding grain anymore. That's not its value. Its new purpose is to carry a story from the past right into our hands, into the present.
So, okay, if museums aren't just fancy warehouses for old stuff, then what is the mission of a place like the Grand Egyptian Museum today? What's its ultimate purpose? Well, the International Council of Museums, ICOM for short, lays it out pretty clearly. A modern museum has a bunch of core jobs. Preservation is a big one, of course, but just as important are research, education, communication, and maybe most importantly, creating a space for cultural dialogue. The whole idea is for it to be an active, living place, not some dusty, quiet hall. And underpinning all of this is a solid foundation of ethics. And this is so, so important. Ethics guides every single decision. How artifacts are acquired, how they're taken care of, making sure they're displayed in a way that's culturally sensitive, and making them accessible to as many people as possible. It's basically the museum's moral compass. You know, the way a museum communicates is really its own kind of art form. An exhibit is like a visual language. Nothing is random. The way the objects are placed, the lighting, the way you walk through the space, it's all carefully designed to tell you a story, to nudge your interpretation, and to spark a real connection, both in your head and in your heart, with the past. So what this really means is that the museum is playing the role of a mediator, a translator for you. It takes all this super complex academic research and turns it into stories that we can all connect with. See, the goal isn't just to throw a bunch of facts at you. It's about sparking your curiosity, getting you to think, and making history feel alive and meaningful for every single person who walks through the door. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Really, it's that the scientific work out in the field and the thoughtful work inside the museum, they're two sides of the exact same coin. One side carefully brings the past back to light, and the other gives that past a future. You absolutely cannot have one without the other. And that leaves us with a really big question for the future. I mean, in a world with VR and everything being online instantly, what's the right balance? How can museums protect these incredibly fragile, one-of-a-kind artifacts for the future while also living up to their mission of sharing our collective history with absolutely everyone? Finding the answer to that, well, that's the challenge that's going to shape the museums of tomorrow.